Welcome to another wonderful edition of ADB Football Focus. I hope you guys are having a terrific week. You got my review show earlier this week. Today, I want to talk a little bit before we get started about the UFL and some other information that's important. And some of this might come up in other shows because I've been studying TV markets. And why that's so important is it's not just important for UFL football, but it's important for college football and the pros as well. So, I want to go over some information that came up this week, and I think it's important that we go ahead and discuss that. There was an article in the UFL Football Hub about UFL 2004 midseason review, strong market struggles, expansion talk, new trade talk, stuff like that. So what I really want to talk about first of all are the strong and the weak markets, or the markets that are struggling, and I got some basis for all of that. So, this is directly from that article. Markets looking good for 2024 are the DC Defenders, St. Louis Battlehawks, Birmingham Stallions, and the Arlington Renegades. Now, notice something that's interesting about that. The teams that aren't struggling are all in the XFL. And I have a reason for that, a theory behind that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the teams that are struggling, these are the teams that are struggling, the Michigan Panthers, Memphis Showboats, and the Houston Roughnecks. Now, technically, the Houston Roughnecks, by name, came from the XFL, but this is the old Houston Gamblers franchise from the USFL from last year, just with a different name. So, looking at this, let me tell you some of the struggles they're having. They're having problems getting attendance. People to come to the games, things like that. Memphis is a funny market because when the NFL, before the NFL Titans played in Nashville, they played in Memphis. One of the things that they had a problem with was getting people to come to the games. Now, we thought there would be some interest because people in Memphis, I'm sure the UFL, I'm saying we, the UFL probably thought there was some interest because, they got the Memphis Tigers there, the college football team that's real popular in the city. And there was some interest in having a team there after the Titans left in Memphis. Memphis has a basketball team right now. They had an expansion basketball team. They have basketball in Memphis. I don't know about baseball, but I know they have basketball. I think they also have hockey. So Memphis has got other sports franchises that are tied to media in his work. There's a couple of things that are tied into this why Memphis is struggling. But, we say TV markets are important, but butts in the seats are important when you're watching this on TV. And so, like I said, Michigan Panthers, the Memphis Showboats, and Houston Roughnecks are all struggling to have people in the seats. Now, the two that are most in trouble are the Michigan Panthers and the Memphis Showboats. Of those, I think the one that is the most in trouble is Memphis Showboats, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So, going back to my theory. The USFL, this is before this year and the UFL started and all that. USFL was, had this hub system. The hub system basically took all of the teams. Not only did they practice at the hub system, they played in the hub. For the first year of the USFL, was all in Birmingham, a la the Birmingham Stallions. Well, the Birmingham Stallions doesn't have a problem drawing the crowd. They were all in Birmingham. All the teams were in Birmingham. So then the following year, there was 3 hubs. I believe Michigan was a hub, Memphis was a hub, and Birmingham was a hub. I think the Memphis hub did okay last year. Canton, Ohio, sorry. Canton, Ohio was a hub. That's where it was. It was Canton, Ohio. Memphis and Birmingham were all hubs. So some games were played at the hub locations. Now it becomes an issue. Now these teams are working in their home markets, and I think they had a hard time marketing these teams to their home markets. I think that's strange for the Memphis Showboats, considering that they actually played last year a lot of times in their home market, but all of these teams had to play in these different hubs that they had set up. So here comes the thing. Another thing that happened to Michigan early in this year is I heard that ticket sales started late. That means promotions started late. And something I saw, and some of this had to do with how the UFL was set up. See, because the league started late, they had a late start on promotion. Now, Birmingham Stallions tickets have been selling since last year. It didn't stop selling. So the people were buying tickets from last year. There were promotions out there. If you live in Alabama along 280, there's a big old sign, and there's a football out there that said, buy your Stallions to support your Stallions, right? Those kind of things exist. Michigan Panthers. You're 2 weeks before the game. You're trying to sell tickets. Some people don't even know. Michigan has been a team that struggled in the USFL for 2 years in a row, and now you're trying to get them to buy tickets. Memphis last year was a decent team. It was okay. It was in a market where they kind of had some interest and people were coming to the games, but again, they struggled with marketing. For some reason, USFL has struggled with marketing outside of the hub system. And the hub system was great because you're getting everybody on TV in this one place, but a lot of times they were playing to empty seats. Because, again, if you're in Birmingham and it's Birmingham Stallions versus a team, you're going to get the crowd. You might get some from New Orleans. You might get some from Memphis, right, in the Birmingham area. But then you had all these other teams like the not DC vendors, like the Stars from New Jersey or the Philadelphia team. All those guys, they couldn't get the butts in the seats. Well, we don't have those two teams this year, but we do have the Michigan Panthers and we do have Memphis Tigers, or Memphis Showboats, and they're struggling to get butts in the seat. And I think that has something to do with that USFL structure. Now, they need to get the momentum in order of this because what they want to do is franchise all of the teams. So right now, the strongest teams for a franchise are St. Louis Battlehawks and DC Defenders. St. Louis Battlehawks drawing 34,000 a game. DC Defenders 15,000 a game. Birmingham 10 to 12. Arlington 12 to 14,000. San Antonio 12 to 14,000. So all of those are strong enough markets to sell the team if you sell them at the right price. But it's hard to sell teams that are struggling to get butts in the seats because the person who buys a franchise, of course, wants to make some kind of money off of it eventually. I'm taking the risk now, hoping that this team will do better. So the question is, of those other places, now here's the thing about Michigan Panthers, why I think that they might stay. They are, as far as TV markets go, because this is important, and I was looking at that as well, top TV markets. As far as TV markets go, I believe it's like number 12. Yeah, number 11. So Detroit is number 11 on that list of TV markets. So there's a good chance that it'll stay. Now, here's the thing. Birmingham is 40. So that's okay. It's in the top 50, so it's okay. But Memphis falls down to 48th. And of all those I mentioned, because Houston is high on the list too, that's why it's not off the list. It's 10, number 10. I think they're safe as far as coming back next year. That's T market is 10. Memphis, on the other hand, is the one market that is the lowest of the markets. Now, here's the funny thing. Some of the markets they're looking at are ranked below Birmingham. So, Orlando, New Orleans is another one that they're looking at. And here's the thing. New Orleans has a professional football team. Buffalo has professional football. St. Louis has a professional football team. All of those teams are ranked below. All of those TV markets are ranked below Birmingham. Now, there's also rumors on this list, as you can see, about expansion. So expansion, they're thinking about maybe bringing back the Seattle Sea Dragons and maybe the Orlando franchise, because Orlando, believe it or not, is number 19. So that's a big TV market, and Seattle would be a nice TV market. My issue is how spread out the teams are. They're all over the place, but that's okay for right now. We're not forming a West Coast division. We don't have East, North, South, West, and all that stuff like the NFL. We're only expanding to maybe 10 to 12 teams. My understanding, because it's in the news article also, is that it's a requirement for the UFL to expand to 10 teams next year because they made a deal with the federal government, U.S. government, and I don't know how all that works, and that's kind of crazy that they would be involved with such a thing. In order for the team to get out, the merger to happen, for the two leagues to merge, they were going to start with 8 teams this year and next year move to 12. I know this is a lot of information to take in all at once, but the UFL looks viable for another year. They already have gotten contracts for promotion for next year. They've got partnerships that they're forming. Their teams are just trying to make deals and trying to expand the league slowly. If they get to 10, maybe eventually they'll get to 12, maybe they'll get to 16. I think the team will probably stop at 16 unless, it grows even more. Then we can see upwards to 20, 22 teams, right? But for right now, the goal is 10 to 12 teams. I think that's a pretty good size for the league. You'll have, in other words, it's a 12-team league. You'll have 6 teams in the USFL and 6 teams in the XFL. There are on this some teams that they're looking at because they have the USFL and the UFL have licensed some names like Canton Bulldogs, Ohio Bulldogs, Nashville Tuners, the Aviators and the Conquerors logos. Now, they said those are from the old spring league that the USFL originally developed from. And like I said, Seattle Sea Dragons and Orlando Guardians, those are already franchises of their own. So there are teams that they're looking at. One is Philadelphia, another one is New Orleans, and Nashville. So those three areas are looked at for, and like I said, New Orleans is a weaker TV market, so the stronger TV markets will probably come first. So I'm thinking they're going to be Philadelphia and Nashville that they're going to get a team. You say, well, why do they keep going to these NFL cities? That's like, trying to compete. I say, yeah, but at the same time, look at St. Louis, look at D.C. D.C. is right there in the Washington market, and it's got a strong team. St. Louis, on the other hand, well, they don't have a pro franchise right now. At one time, the Rams were there, and another time, the Cardinals were there. Is a city hungry for professional football. Birmingham, a city hungry for semi-hungry for professional football. That's what they're looking at as far as those models go. While they're looking at those potential areas and cities. So we know right now who the surviving teams seem like to be. XFL division, it looks like St. Louis Bellhawks, DC Defenders, Arlington, San Antonio. Maybe they'll add Seattle Dragons. USFL division team staying Birmingham Stallions, Houston Roughnecks. And it's going to be either the Memphis Showboats or Michigan Stays. Adding one of the two teams or two teams, if they take out another team, would be Nashville, New Orleans, or Philadelphia. So there's some possibilities there. There could be some other cities they throw in there. Like I said, the TV market thing is big. They can't get into New York. From what I hear, there's some legal issues. So they can't get into New York or Los Angeles TV markets at all. So that kind of narrows it down. Maybe they could put a team in Arizona, team in Boston. But, we got the Patriots there, and that's kind of a big deal there. Like I said, Chicago, maybe. There's some other markets where they could put teams, Tampa, Florida, Miami, Denver. That might be a good market. Portland, Oregon, to compete with Seattle. They have Seattle and a Portland team. So there are some other markets where they could possibly put a team. But for right now, the goal is to try to get the Memphis Showboats off the ground. Try to get the Detroit team off the ground. They think by winning, Detroit can probably pick that up. And I think they can. I think they can pick up their numbers if they win. Now, winning outright is probably not possible if they, the Birmingham Stallions and the St. Louis Bellhawks are probably, it's still early, probably going to be the championship teams, but you never know, right? Anything could happen. On that note, let's get back to football. It's time for the weekly picks. I know this is what you guys are waiting for. You want to know what teams I think will win this week. Let's just break it down like this. Let's start with the Saturday games. 12 p.m. Eastern Time, ABC, it will be Stallions versus the Showboats. Now, if you're in the local area, I suggest, if you're a Memphis Showboat fan, please show up at the game. They need as many butts in the seats as they can get to stay. They're playing the Stallions. Here's the thing. Some people say they're trap games. I said there's a possibility this could be a trap game if Memphis is hungry and the Stallions are full. What I mean by that is if the Stallions come in thinking, hey, we got this game in the bag, they're going to lose that game because the Showboats are hungry. They need to eat, and they haven't eaten in a couple of weeks. And actually, since the beginning of the season when they beat Houston now. So they've got to bring the funk in this game. And they're playing at home. Stallions are on the road. Stallions have been successful so far. If Stallions get 6-0, they're close to that playoff. They're almost qualified for the playoffs because they'll be a 6-4 is the chance if they don't win out the rest of the season. They'll be 6-4 is the chance they'll be in the playoffs. So winning this game is crucial for the Stallions to establish that they are a playoff team. I'm sure if they win this week and next week, they'll definitely be a playoff team. So Stallions have to do that. Memphis, in order to become a playoff team, is going to have to win out. So Memphis has a tough battle here. I still think that, depending on who starts at quarterback, that's my issue with the Stallions. I believe it's time for Matt Carroll to play, but I wish Martinez is good. Matt Carroll is good. So if it's Matt Carroll's week, I expect that we'll see a lot of air yardage this week. But we got to get that pickup on that running game. Our running game is good, but it could be better. This is the opportunity for us to do that there. For Memphis, I would suggest running the ball more. That protects your quarterbacks who are running for their life in this game. They've been sacked so many times. 8 sacks in the last game, 8 sacks the games before, 5-6 sacks per game. They're like the most sacked team in the league. So protecting the quarterback is Memphis' biggest issue. On defense, they can be porous. Boy, if the Stallions can run on Memphis like Detroit did, it's going to be a bad day for Memphis. So Memphis is going to have to learn how to run more, then stop the run. Birmingham has some issues stopping the run, but they have to make a decision at quarterback who's going to start. Most likely it's going to be Matt Carroll. It doesn't matter. They just have the overload. I'm expecting this game to be 32-15 Stallions. Let's move on to the other game today. The number 2 team versus the dead last team in the league, according to UFL. The St. Louis Battlehawks versus the lowly Houston Roughnecks. Now, how can I explain this game? We're talking about 2 teams on the opposite ends of the polar opposites. And Memphis is having to make some mid-season decisions. They're activating and deactivating players left and right. That means there's going to be a lack of team cohesion. In fact, they're bringing back the first quarterback, and quarterback is not their problem. It's not their problem at all, but I'm sure they're activating. He's not starting, but Sennett is probably the only piece in this puzzle that is working, maybe some of the wide receivers, but they're trying to get them all together. They only scored 9 points against Stallions last week. I don't expect much better against the Battlehawks this week. I don't know if the Battlehawks will put up 41 points, but it could be possible. So it's 41-7 Battlehawks. That's the score I'm giving for this game because I just don't see Houston having a chance against that Battlehawks offense or defense. Now, another possible trap game, especially for a team like Michigan, who's been kind of seesaw. They're 3-2. They're on that seesaw level. They've lost 2 games. One of those was to the Stallions. And the other, I believe, was to the Battlehawks. So they've lost to the top of the league, but they've beaten everybody else just about. So I think Detroit beat the Battlehawks. The one team this is why the Battlehawks is one of those teams it's like they're a dangerous team. They beat the Battlehawks, or that was their first game. They beat the Battlehawks. They lost to San Antonio. Now, They're playing the Renegades. The Renegades is funny. It's a team that's good enough to beat anybody, but hasn't beaten anybody. It's got what it takes. It's just something happens to this team in the third and fourth quarter. They got to find a way to win. This is their opportunity this week to get off the snide against a Michigan team that is pretty good. Defensively, they'll probably take down the Renegades. Offensively, it depends on which Michigan Panthers decide to show up. That's what I said. If there's one from last week that ran the ball well, threw the ball just enough, the Renegades could be in trouble. Now, the Renegades going to have to find a way to establish the passing game against this team and run game in order to win. I'm going to say this game's a little bit closer, 24-18, Michigan Panthers. This last game. Whoa. DC last week got its butt whooped by the St. Louis Battlehawks. So we're looking at a team that's probably on the same level as the Michigan Panthers right now. We thought maybe it would be the number 3 team at this point. We didn't even think the Brahmins would be where they are now. The Brahmins are definitely the number 3 team in the league. DC is sitting down at a hard 4. So DC, this is your opportunity. They have the defense. They definitely have the defense. The problem is offense. Wide receivers, running back. That's a struggle. They haven't been able to get the running game good. Passing-wise, it depends. They got drop passes all over the place. They've got 1 or 2 guys. Number 13, he's a decent wide receiver. He's caught a couple of passes. Te'amo's overthrown the ball several times because he's running for his life because the offensive line's not blocking that well all the time. So there's several little issues here that they've got to fix. On the other side of the Brahmins have had 2 running backs that went nearly over 100 yards last week. And the week before that, they had 2 receivers go over 100 yards apiece. And that's with a backup quarterback. So what does that tell me? The Brahmins are a pretty decent team. And defensively, they don't struggle there either. They're a fighting team. So this is going to be a tough game for the DC Defenders. Now, DC Defenders have a good defense. They can probably come up strong here. So I'm going to say 25-14 Brahmins. Those are my predictions for this week. I'm trying to tell you, the way I see it, it's going to be Stallions winning, Battlehawks winning, Panthers winning, and the Brahmins winning. So, Brahmins. Well, guys, that's my fearless prediction for this week. That's the way I see the games turning out this week. I would love to know what you think. So make sure that you leave a comment below. Now, if you have not subscribed and this is your first time here, make sure that you subscribe, share, and like. I got more shows coming. We will be talking a little bit more next week about players and ranking some players as well as doing when I do my weekly rankings. Also, I got some information coming up on the NFL as well as college football. I told you I've been working on that for a while. So that is coming up. So like I said, make sure you hit that notification button, hit that like, share button, and subscribe. Peace out.